Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, hopefully you're all having an awesome weekend. It is getting kind of cold right now, that time of year, so it's kind of a good time to be inside playing games, stay out from the cold, enjoy video games. It's a win-win situation, but since you're here, since you're watching this video, and since I have your attention, I guess it's time to tell you guys the weekly reset is back. Now, very quickly, for those of you guys that are perhaps watching this series for the very first time, the Weekly Reset is the name of my weekly gaming show. Every week, we talk about gaming news, what's kind of hot that week, what's happened. We talk about some of the games that I've been playing recently in a feature called Late to the Party. This can often allow me to go back and play games that I might have missed, and then just in general sit down and chat about them and just kind of get excited about games. And I also take a look at some cool gaming tech to show you guys some cool things that you might want to consider picking up. So, with that being said, if you guys do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think. If you guys don't want to miss any of our future uploads, don't forget you can always click that notification button so you get notified every time we upload a new video. There will ideally be one of these every single weekend. And if you guys want a chance to win a Spider-Man PS4 Pro, don't forget you can click that link in the description box down below for your chance to win. But let's not waste any time, got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, so let's dive into the news. Now, first on the agenda this week is news surrounding Smash Brothers. Now, in truth, I don't normally talk about leaks. It's just one of those kind of things where invariably anybody can make a leak. I'm pretty proficient in Photoshop. I can always go in there, put a little motion blur on something, take a screenshot from my phone and be like, hey, this is a leak. So they're pretty easy to make, and generally speaking, you want to take them with a pinch of salt. However, Smash Brothers is a game that I am incredibly excited for. I am counting down the days, and honestly, any information that comes out around that, I do tend to at least want to sort of like pay attention to. Now, this leak recently came from a French printing company, basically the big wall scroll like picture of Smash Brothers, the character roster that we've seen up until this point. Supposedly there is a final version of that with the remaining characters, and somebody took a Snapchat photo of this, and invariably, as is the way on the internet, it got out. Now, rather conveniently, as is often the way with these leaks, they are pretty low res, but some people have been able to kind of go through and enhance it, reconstruct it, and they've been able to extrapolate what we believe are the remaining characters. Now again, be very clear, this should be taken with a massive pinch of salt until Nintendo officially announce something, until we get a trailer, a Nintendo Direct, or we see them in game, then none of this is true. But if it is to be believed, then we could be looking at some additional characters: Isaac from Golden Sun, Gino from Super Mario RPG, Ken from Street Fighter, Shadow the Hedgehog from Sonic. There's also Mack Rider, Chorus Kid, and Banjo and Kazooie. So, rather interesting list of characters there. There are some that would probably be pretty good fits. I mean, you'd expect maybe Ken could be an Echo Fighter of Ryu. I know they do have some slightly different moves, but they could probably work in that respect. Isaac would, of course, be a really cool character because, you know, Golden Sun, I know there's a lot of people out there that are massive fans of that, so that would, of course, be pretty interesting. Gino, now in truth, I didn't actually play much of Super Mario RPG, so I don't particularly have an attachment to that character, but character model-wise, looks pretty cool, so that could be nice. I know people have always kind of jokingly been asking for Shadow, so I don't think that would go down too badly, but there are some interesting characters there. Mack Rider probably stands out as the one that's most obscure, but we have had some pretty obscure characters in the roster before, so it might not be too far from the truth. But again, either way, point is, that is something that kind of crops up this week, and of course has promoted more discussion. We do know from Sakurai that there are more characters to be announced, so the roster is not complete. We are a little bit over a month away from the game now, so there's still plenty of time. Maybe there'll be a new Nintendo Direct. In truth, I wouldn't actually mind if we don't get any more character announcements until the game comes out. I kind of miss the days where games used to launch and we didn't know everything about them before they came out. I miss the days where you go into a fighting game and half the roster you have to go and work through the game and unlock them, because that's just really cool. Like, you know, if you kind of complete a Smash Brothers match and suddenly it's like a new challenger and you're like, I didn't know about this guy. That would be really cool. But either way, let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think? Do you think this is a reliable leak? Do you think it is completely fake? And also, more importantly, who else would you like to see in Smash? The one person I'm still holding out for, I, in truth, don't feel like we're ever actually going to get them, but Wonder Red from Wonderful 101, there's that image that Hideki Kamiya tweeted a while ago where it kind of made it seem like maybe Wonderful 101 would come to Switch. So I would love to see that character. I feel like those characters in general would fit so well in Smash. But either way, I honestly feel like that's something that probably would never happen, or at least if it's going to happen, maybe it'll be a DLC character. Anyway, moving on from there, next up in the news, Capcom tweeted recently, or tweeted this week, should I say, that some more fan favourites, Resident Evil fan favourites, will be making their way to Nintendo Switch. Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 4 will be making their way to Switch in 2019. There's not much more information right now. They did say there is more information to follow, but the fact that, you know, kind of if you think back to a while ago, back kind of pre-Monster Hunter as well, Capcom were, or at least Capcom Japan, were saying they weren't necessarily too sure about Nintendo Switch. They dropped Street Fighter on it as sort of a means to test the water, but since then they've of course definitely seen the value in it, seen the popularity behind it. So to see more and more games coming to Switch, which is, to be honest, my favourite console just because of portability and everything, then that's really cool. So Resident Evil fans, not only do you have, of course, the Resident Evil 2 remake coming out very soon, but you also have more stuff to play on the go in the foreseeable future. And then finally, in Anthem news, this one I actually covered on the channel the other day, but if you guys missed it, then there was a live stream at Paris Games Week this time, and they gave us a look at Storm in greater detail. Up until now, we'd always seen most gameplay from either the Ranger or the Colossus Javelin perspective. This time they actually played the entire mission from the Storm's perspective, so we got to see plenty of extended Storm gameplay. If you guys want a complete breakdown, you can click the card here or the link in the description box down below to watch the complete breakdown I did on the channel, but we got to see the Storm's ultimate ability, which looks so ridiculously cool. It basically kind of summons down this elemental storm, it freezes the ground, throws in some fire, brings down some lightning. It's just kind of the definition of elemental overkill, and we also got a look at a little bit of Interceptor gameplay from the perspective of the Storm. We saw him activate his super, and it looks pretty cool. So, some new gameplay there, and of course we have some more information dropping next week, November 1st. There'll be a Halloween live stream. I don't necessarily expect there to be a drastic amount of new information. I think they're actually going to be playing an old build, but generally speaking, when developers get on a stream and they start chatting, that's when the juicy information comes out. So a little bit more Anthem information to kind of talk about, a little bit more stuff to, you know, kind of at least keep us busy, because for quite a while we've been basically just riding on E3 coverage and E3 footage, and as nice as it is, it gets a little bit boring after a while when you've seen the same thing over and over again. So it is nice to see something new. Of course, the game is launching next year, but I'm super excited for it. But for the time being, that is your news this week. So what have I been playing this week? Well, while this section is typically reserved for games that I have, you know, picked up and might not necessarily be new and I just want to tell you guys about, in truth, this past week I haven't had a chance to go back and play anything in my backlog. I've just been so focused on the games that are released this week. Obviously, one of those is Red Dead Redemption 2, which I have barely started to scratch the surface on. I'm trying to dive in, but those kind of games are massive. So I don't actually want to talk about that today because that is a game that I feel like I need to play more before I can really start talking about it in great detail. So what I actually want to talk about is My Hero One's Justice. As a huge My Hero Academia fan, or Boku no Hero if you prefer it that way, and someone that also likes fighting games, this is something that I was fully gonna get behind. Now, I've had a lot of questions from people saying, you know, when they see some gameplay, they don't necessarily know how it plays, or, you know, don't know whether they like the way it looks. And I thought I'd just talk a little bit more about it because I think it's important to go into this game understanding what to expect. Because it is a cool game, it is a fun game, but it's also not necessarily what you might think from the initial description. So what I mean by that is, I feel like the people that are going to go into this game are going to be in one of two camps. You're either going to be an anime fan, like a massive fan of Boku no Hero, or you're going to be a fighting game fan, and then depending on the way that you approach it, depending on the way that you go into it, will probably determine what you get out of it. So let's talk about that first camp. Anime fans, if you like the series, you are going to absolutely love this game. You know, if you've got attachments to the characters, you like some of the over-the-top moves, the plus ultras, and you like the universe, then this is a chance to just experience some of that in video game form. Now, yes, the game itself isn't completely up to date with the series right now. I'm not going to kind of give any spoilers, but it essentially gets up to All Might's big fights. If you know what I'm talking about, then fair enough. If you haven't watched that, then it's not a spoiler. Point is, that's basically where it gets to. They have added in Deku's new style as a downloadable character on day one completely free, so everyone can get that. So that's kind of one thing bringing it up to date. And of course, there will be DLC characters to follow, so they may well catch up with it as it goes. But in terms of timeline, it is a little bit behind, but that kind of happens with anime fighters. You look at like when Naruto games used to come out, you know, there's been quite a few Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storms, and every single new release basically catches up with the anime even more so, and obviously now it's done, then fair enough. So I imagine we'll get the same with, you know, My Hero over the years, but initially that's basically where it gets to, but you still have a great roster of characters, plenty of awesome characters, both heroes and villains, and of course they also have their over-the-top moves, so when you kind of start seeing it all tying together in combat, you start seeing all the combos flowing, going into your supers and your ultras or your plus ultras, then yeah, I mean, you just have those feelings straight away. You're just like, this is you know, I'm living out the anime. And that's the thing that I think is going to appeal to most people if you're coming into it as a My Hero fan. There's also a great deal of customization. As you're playing through story, you can unlock different costumes or different like costume elements. When you complete missions and you get like S ranks, you can unlock the special items. You also unlock currency in game, which you can then use to buy more items from the store. And you can then use those to customize the default characters. So you can then have like Midoriya with, I don't know, Eraserhead's goggles and like his neck wrap. You can have like the gauntlets from Bakugo, you can have legs from different characters, you can have different things on your head, different glasses. There's honestly so many wacky items, and you can really kind of just completely change the way the characters look. So for those of you guys that also like customization, I mean, that's definitely something that I love in any game as someone that plays Monster Hunter, and you know, I love going after armor sets, or someone that like spend a lot of time creating characters in Soul Calibur. Character customization and creation is something I love in any video game. So being able to go into a series that I'm super passionate about, and then also just unlock a load of wacky costumes that I can then use to change the look of my characters, that is, you know, an instant win for me. So, yeah, to be clear, if you're a fan of the anime and you kind of come into this as a My Hero fan, I think you definitely get some enjoyment out of it. You can play through the story from the hero perspective, you can play through from the villain perspective, and then the actual cutscenes play out in these cool little like animated comic panels, so it is a pretty cool experience. However, if you're coming over from the other camp as a fighting game fan, then you need to know what to expect, because this is not, say, your conventional fighting game. It's not super in-depth to the point where, you know, you're going to have crazy combo chains and crazy things to try and sort of, you know, learn and like frame data or anything like that. Like, I don't expect to see this game showing up at EVO next year. It is more so, I think I've referred to it in the past, like a brawler. So it's probably a lot less serious. The combos and the moves are pretty self-explanatory. You don't have any crazy inputs, you don't have any quarter circles or any dragon punches, and most of your combos are simple button presses. There aren't too many like lengthy combos. You can link things together in some really cool ways to get some nice multi-hit combos, but in terms of actual execution, you know, you have your simple attacks, you have your quirks, so you have basically your special moves, you have your throws, you have moves that can basically have like armor and you can then go through attacks, and you then have your special. So it's pretty simple on that front, and while to a certain degree there is some depth, you know, there's obviously some scope to learn the game a little bit better, so you're not just going in and mashing buttons randomly, it is still not the deepest of games. So if you were going into expecting, say, like a slightly more in-depth combat system that you have had in some anime fighters, then you might be a tad disappointed, but if you go in with more of an open mind of it being kind of just a fun game to jump into with some basic combat and then just your ability to mess around with some really cool characters, then I think you're going to have a great time with it. I think for me personally, the more I play it, the more I really enjoy it. The very first time I played it at E3, obviously I went into it as a huge fan of the series and was like, I really want this game to be awesome. And it took me a little while to get used to the combat. It's a little bit floaty at times, and initially I didn't necessarily know how things linked together perfectly. Bear in mind, my first time picking up at E3, I had like 15 minutes to play it, so you can't really learn a game inside out in that short space of time. But now the game's out and I've had a chance to play it more, both, you know, through story mode and also with other people, then you start to get a feel more so for how things tie together, and then that initial clunky feeling has kind of gone away. And I feel like I personally have a better understanding as to how the combat flows. So once you do tie all that together and you do start to understand it, and you know that when you're jumping in with characters, you are doing a lot more than just pressing random buttons, then it does actually feel a lot more rewarding. There's a normal mode and there's a manual mode for playing. Normal mode basically does a lot of auto combos for you, so if you're not too familiar with fighting games and you are coming into this more as an anime fan, then just use normal mode. You can press a few buttons and things come out and look cool, and you can get that gratification, but if you want to have a bit more control, then I typically play a manual, and then it just allows you to, you know, customize your attacks a little bit more, so you don't necessarily have to dip into those auto combos, and then you just feel like you have a little bit more control over what's going on. But either way, I am actually really enjoying it. It is one of those games that has grown on me massively. I definitely went into it giving it a chance because, of course, I wanted to like it because I love the series, but the more I play it, the more I actually enjoy it. And the fact that I picked it up on Switch means that I can take it on the go with me. There's replay value in the story missions, because sometimes if you don't get S ranks, then you don't unlock all of the costume items. Sometimes there's special conditions, like you have to end it with a plus ultra, or end it with a KO, or end it with different things like that. And there's reason to kind of go back and, you know, complete that if you want to, from a completionist angle, try and unlock all the items. So it is something definitely that I feel I will be playing a lot more of, and something I'll be playing like on the go. So yeah, I mean, maybe it might not necessarily be the definitive My Hero fighting game that everyone wants, and I feel like this series is just growing in popularity, and I feel like over the years we're going to get more and more of them. Maybe one day Arc System Works will jump on it and kind of do their own take on it. That would be insane, but for the time being, for like essentially our first My Hero fighter, I am actually really enjoying it. Now, this week in gaming tech, we are talking about the Ojo Switch dock Projector. As the name suggests, it is a Switch dock that doubles as a projector. You put the Switch in, and as you would with a normal Switch dock, you put it in and it switches to the main display. In the case of the projector, the main display is the projector. So you then dock it, it displays your game in the wall, and you can then play your games in any location that you want. It has an internal battery, so you can take it with you, and you can then basically be that guy at the parties where, like, summer barbecue, you're like, hey, you want to play some Smash Brothers? Let's do it. Throw it up on the wall, play some Mario Kart, play some Monster Hunter, play whatever you want on the go. So this is a device that I actually picked up a little while ago, and I only kind of recently had a chance to sort of sit down and check it out. It was something that I initially saw when it was first announced, and to begin with I was like, you know what, it looks kind of cool, but I don't think I'll ever use it. And then eventually kind of I looked at it more and more and just thought, you know what, even if I don't use it that much, I just really want to check it out. So I picked it up. It is not the cheapest thing in the world, and when you look at the stats on paper, it doesn't sound that impressive. And we'll speak more about that in just a moment, but to kind of go over the initial features, it is a very small unit. Size-wise, it is very similar to a Switch dock, albeit a little bit deeper because you've got the internal components for the projector itself. And then on the bottom, you have a little kickstand if you want to prop it up so that you can then obviously, you know, angle it up for better projection. On the top, you have 4 buttons. You have volume up and down because it has some speakers. Plus you have buttons to tweak the focus of the actual lens itself. So, you know, when you first dock it, you might have a little blurry image, and then you tweak with this a little bit and you can actually get some pretty crisp images. Then on the back, there's a little flap you can open up. It has 2 USB ports and it has an HDMI out. So if you want to use it as a, you know, standard projector, plug your laptop into it, run a film on it, run a presentation on it, you can do that. But it also has an internal battery. So when you plug it in, you can turn it on or you can switch it over to charge mode, and you can then charge the battery, which can do one of 2 things. Obviously, it firstly allows you to use the projector without plugging it into the mains, but it also means you can double it up as a battery. So if you want to charge a device or charge your Switch on the go, then you can do that. They say that it has enough once it's fully charged to essentially charge the Switch 3 times, which is kind of handy. And the battery itself, if you are projecting, can last for around 4 hours. So not a huge time period, but generally speaking, if you're going to be playing on a projector, it's probably going to be for, you know, slightly smaller periods of time. Anyway, so that's kind of the overview for it. Now, a couple of things worth noting. If you are running off the battery, the projector is naturally dimmed a little bit, of course, to kind of, you know, maintain battery and whatnot. So if you do want the maximum possible brightness, you are going to have to plug it into a wall adapter. But either way, it works pretty well either side. Now, I mentioned earlier about specs. If you read it up on paper, it doesn't sound massively impressive. To be clear, this is not an HD projector. It's not a 1080p projector. Those are pretty expensive. It's also not even a 720p projector. Those are also pretty expensive. This is a sub-HD projector, and to a lot of people, the fact that I've just said that is probably already a write-off. You're probably like, you know what? That's enough for me. That ain't it, Chief. I don't want it. And fair enough. But I think it's one of those things where I'm glad that I picked it up, because I'm pretty much the same. If I read that on paper, I think to myself, you know what? I'm not even going to bother. But when I've used it in practice, I've actually got some really good images out of it to the point where I'm happy playing on that screen. Now, it's not going to be the biggest screen. You're not going to go and present it or kind of project it onto a cinema-sized screen. But if you do project it onto a wall, as I've done here, I had to kind of find a room in my house that has a blank wall because mine are pretty much all covered. But projecting it onto there and then tweaking with the lens a little bit, I did actually get to the point where I had a pretty sharp image. I could read all the text clearly, I could play it clearly, it looked great. I don't necessarily expect, you know, an ultra clear OLED-like image out of this because, you know, it's a projector and it's not really kind of why I bought it. But for the convenience of being able to kind of take it and just throw it up on a wall, outside, at a party, at a completely random location, it does exactly what I want it to do. Now, to be very clear, I also have never owned a projector before, so I'm not someone that can really give you a comparison to another pre-existing projector. This is the first time I've ever bought one, but I bought it purely because I knew it was a Switch dock. I know it's very portable, it's incredibly small. It also comes with a carry case. You can then throw, you know, the straps in there, some controllers, the plug, the power ports, and you can carry it around like that. But it is incredibly portable, incredibly small. As I said, it's essentially a dock size. So, you know, for what it does and for what I kind of picked it up for, I am actually incredibly happy. I will say, however, that they have said on Twitter they are apparently already working on the Ojo 2, which will supposedly be a 720p projector. Now, considering that this is already pretty expensive for a sub-HD projector and they're working on the next one, if you guys are thinking of getting this, you might want to consider holding out for, you know, version 2. Then again, if you are looking to pick it up for kind of a similar reason to me, just kind of something that you can just take outside, have some fun with, doesn't necessarily need to be the best screen in the world, then by all means go ahead and grab it. But generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with it. It does what I want, and I've had some great time playing it, so it's something I can see myself using, probably not all the time. I mean, if I'm at home, I'm just going to be playing on my TV, but of course, if I do go to a friend's house, or I do go to a party, or I do go to a location that I don't think there will necessarily be a screen, and I do want to play Smash Brothers, especially with Smash Brothers launching this year, that is a game that I'm going to be playing no end. So kind of been able to take this and just be like, you know what? We're battling right now in the middle of the street. I mean, don't stand in the middle of the street. That's bad, but you know what I mean. In the middle of nowhere, we're playing right now. So yeah, that's me. So there you have it, that is it for your weekly reset. It is officially back, it'll be back every single weekend, so be sure to tune in on a weekly basis to get your weekly fix of news, games, tech, and more. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out some more awesome stuff from us here at Arekkz Gaming, then you should definitely try to catch 269 and Paradise Central streaming 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. They play a wide range of games, and what's more, we also have the Endgame store. By watching their streams, you earn currency, and you can redeem that currency on the Endgame store for really cool prizes. Those can range from things like games, comics, and figures, all the way up to controllers, capture cards, and even consoles. So definitely drop by and become part of the community. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you're subscribed and be sure to click on that little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. You can watch more videos by clicking on the options here, but once again, thanks very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.